Okay, so picture this. You're at the park, beautiful day, your dog's running around having a great time, and then you see it, they're eating dirt.
Uh-huh.
Is this just a funny dog thing, or is it something serious that we need to worry about?
Right.
That's what we're diving into today.
Yeah.
Dogs eating dirt,
It's a good one.
or as the experts call it,
Oh, yeah.
geophagia.
Geophagia.
We've got some research here on why dogs do this, the warning signs, and what we can do as owners
Sure.
to keep our furry friends safe.
Yeah.
We'll even hear a story about Max the Labrador, whose dirt eating turned out to be a clue about a health issue.
Interesting.
If you've ever wondered, why does my dog eat dirt?
Yeah.
This is the deep dive for you.
You're right. It is actually surprisingly common. I bet most dog owners have seen it at least once.
Yeah.
But like you said, there is a huge range between, little nibble here and there versus a dog who's like obsessed with the dirt.
Right, like face down.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's interesting because sometimes I feel like dogs aren't just eating dirt because they like the taste.
Right.
It's like they're trying to tell us something.
Yeah, like, hey, I need more minerals over here.
Right, exactly.
It's not always that simple.
Sure.
But we can break it down into 4 categories for why they might be doing this.
Okay, I'm all ears, lay it on me.
Okay, so first up is nutritional deficiencies.
Okay.
So if a dog isn't getting enough of certain nutrients from their diet, like iron or calcium, they might try to find it elsewhere.
Interesting.
And soil actually can contain, small amounts of these minerals.
That makes sense, I guess, if you were really craving a salad.
Right.
Maybe dirt is appealing in that situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well.
Then we have the behavioral reasons.
Okay.
So boredom, stress, just curiosity can lead a dog to explore the world with their mouth,
Uh-huh.
and dirt becomes the target.
Makes sense.
It can even become a habit if they accidentally find, a tasty little treat in the soil once.
Oh, so like a bonus French fry in there, and suddenly the dirt's associated with
Yeah.
deliciousness.
Yeah. And then we also can't forget medical issues.
Right.
So things like anemia, inflammatory bowel disease, even parasites.
Wow.
These can cause discomfort or nutritional imbalances,
Yep.
and eating dirt might be a way for them to try and soothe themselves.
So it's not the solution, it's a symptom.
Exactly.
Got it.
And then lastly, we
Right.
have environmental temptations.
Okay.
So think fertilizers, compost piles, even just yummy food scraps that have ended up in the soil.
Right.
And to a dog, that can make dirt pretty irresistible.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got nutritional, behavioral, medical, environmental.
Mm-hmm.
This is already helping me to see things a little bit more from my dog's point of view.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing there's a point where just like a little dirt snacking turns into something we should be concerned about.
Absolutely. Some dirt eating might be harmless, but there are definitely some red flags.
Okay, what are the warning signs? When should we start to really worry?
So the biggest one is obsessive behavior.
Okay.
If your dog is constantly eating dirt, it's usually a sign that something else is going on
Right.
that needs to be addressed.
Okay.
So not just a little nibble here or there, but like they're having a dirt buffet.
Right. Exactly.
And equally concerning are any signs of illness that accompany the dirt eating.
Okay.
So vomiting, diarrhea, if they seem lethargic, losing weight, loss of appetite, any of those are huge red flags.
Straight to the vet.
Straight to the vet.
Not messing around.
Yeah. And then also toxins.
All right.
This is a big one. If your dog is getting into areas treated with pesticides or fertilizers, that's when it gets really dangerous.
Right.
Even a small amount of those chemicals can be really harmful.
That's a scary thought. It's a good reminder to be careful about where our dogs are sniffing around, especially if we're not in our own backyard.
Absolutely. And sometimes a dog's dirt eating can actually lead to us figuring out a health problem that we might have otherwise missed.
That's a good point.
Speaking of which, do you remember that story about Max?
Oh, yeah. What about Max? Tell me about Max.
Okay, so Max was a Labrador retriever. And you guessed it, he loved hanging out in the garden.
Of course.
His owner noticed that he was always eating dirt from the same exact spot.
Like he had a favorite dirt flavor or something.
Right, that's what they thought.
Interesting.
But it turned out that particular patch of soil had low zinc levels.
Oh, wow.
And Max was instinctively trying to make up for a zinc deficiency.
Interesting.
So they added a zinc supplement to his diet.
Okay.
Problem solved, no more dirt eating.
Wow, that's a great example of how paying attention to your dog's behavior can actually give us clues about their health.
Right.
It's like they're trying to tell us something. We just need to learn how to listen.
Exactly.
But what about those of us thinking, okay, my dog eats some dirt. What can I actually do about it?
Right. So that's where taking some proactive steps comes in.
Okay.
And the good news is you have more control over the situation than you might think.
Okay, I like that. Give me the steps. What can we do to address this and keep our pups safe?
All right, so the first thing always is a checkup with your vet. They can rule out any underlying medical issues and advise on any diet changes or supplements that might be needed.
So the vet visit is like our home base, our starting point.
Exactly.
Okay.
Then focus on giving your dog a balanced diet.
Okay.
So a high-quality dog food that has all the necessary vitamins and minerals can go a long way in preventing those deficiencies.
Right, that makes sense. A well-nourished dog is less likely to be dicking around for snacks in the backyard.
Exactly, and don't underestimate enrichment.
Okay.
A bored dog is more likely to get into things they shouldn't, including dirt. So make sure they've got plenty of toys, exercise training to keep their minds and bodies active.
So basically, tire them out with fun stuff, and they'll be less likely to turn to the dirt out of boredom.
Pretty much.
I like it.
And if you do catch them in the act,
Yeah.
calmly redirect their attention.
Okay.
A toy, a treat, something positive. They'll learn that there are better things to do than munch on dirt.
Positive reinforcement. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. What else?
And making the environment safe is huge.
Okay.
So if your dog has a favorite dirt eating spot, try to block it off.
Sure.
Especially if it's an area where you might have used chemicals.
Right.
And if you have a garden, think about barriers or safe deterrents to keep them away from anything potentially harmful.
Okay. So it's about being proactive and creating a safe space for them.
Exactly.
But I bet there are listeners out there with specific situations in mind. Like, what about some common questions that come up around dogs and dirt eating?
Yeah, let's hear what our listeners are wondering about.
Okay, let's say we have a listener, Sarah, from Austin, who asks, my puppy only eats dirt at the park. Is this something to worry about? What would you say to Sarah?
Well, Sarah, puppies are naturally curious, and they explore the world with their mouths. So a little dirt eating at the park isn't necessarily a cause for alarm.
Okay.
The most important thing is to be aware of what's in that park soil. Are there pesticides or fertilizers used there?
Right.
Those are things you want to avoid. And, of course, keep an eye on your puppy for any signs of illness. If it's just occasional and they seem otherwise healthy, it could just be a phase. But if you're ever unsure, a quick chat with your vet can give you peace of mind.
Great advice. Now, let's say we have Marco from Chicago who asks, how do I stop my dog from eating dirt when I'm not home to watch them? What would you say to Marco about prevention?
That's a common wording, Marco. The key is to think like your dog and make sure they don't have access to any tempting dirt when you're not around.
Okay.
Can you block off those areas, maybe use some safe deterrents? And just as important, make sure they get plenty of exercise and mental stimulation before you leave.
Right.
A good walk, playtime puzzle toys. A tired and engaged dog is much less likely to get into mischief.
So it's a combination of managing their environment and keeping them busy with fun stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. I think the biggest takeaway here is that there are many reasons dogs eat dirt. Some are totally harmless, and some could be more serious. By understanding the possibilities and taking proactive steps, you can help your furry friends stay happy and healthy.
That's such a good point. We don't need to panic over every little nibble of dirt, but we do need to be informed, observant, and proactive.
Exactly. Yeah, it really is about being empowered. You know, like as a pet owner, understanding this stuff can make all the difference.
I love that. It's not about freaking out. It's about like being informed and knowing what to do.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just a harmless quirk, right?
Absolutely. Not every dog who eats a little dirt needs a trip to the vet. But being aware of the possibilities, like you said, is never a bad thing.
Speaking of awareness, I think this is a good time to maybe shift gears a bit and talk about like what this all means for us as dog owners. Yeah. We've covered the why behind dirt eating, but what about the so what? You know, if we connect this to the bigger picture, what can we learn about our relationship with our dogs?
That's a great question, and it raises another interesting point. Could our dogs' behaviors, even something as seemingly odd as eating dirt, be their way of communicating with us? Maybe not consciously or deliberately, but as a sign that something isn't quite right in their world.
That's a really interesting thought. Like they're sending us these like subtle signals and it's up to us to figure out what they mean.
Think about it. Dogs can't use words to tell us they're bored or stressed or that they're missing a certain nutrient, so they express themselves through their behavior. And sometimes that behavior might seem puzzling to us humans.
But if we know what to look for, we can start to understand what they're trying to say. It's like learning a whole new language.
Exactly. And that's where observation becomes so important. We need to really pay attention to our dog's habits, their routines, any changes in their behavior. It's not just about watching them eat dirt. It's about noticing if they're eating more dirt than usual or if they're suddenly fixated on a particular spot in the yard.
So it's about being tuned into our dogs on a deeper level. Not just seeing, but truly observing.
Hmm.
What stands out to you as like the most important thing for owners to keep in mind? If you could give like one piece of advice, what would it be?
Trust your gut. You know your dog better than anyone. If something feels off, if their behavior seems out of character, trust your instincts. It might be nothing, but it's always better to err on the side of caution and check in with your veterinarian. They can help rule out any serious issues and guide you toward the best course of action.
I love that. Trust your gut. It's so simple, yet so powerful. Because we're not just pet owners, we're pet advocates. We're their voice, their protectors. And part of that responsibility is being attuned to their needs, even when they can't express them directly.
You said it perfectly. It's about building that bond of understanding and trust. And the more we learn about our dogs, the better equipped we are to give them the happy, healthy lives they deserve.
Well said. I feel so much more equipped to deal with this now. It's not about being a perfect dog owner. It's about being informed and attentive.
And remember, even the most experienced dog owners face challenges and uncertainties. It's a continuous learning process.
Absolutely. There's always something new to discover about our furry companions. That's part of what makes it so rewarding.
It's a journey of discovery for both us and our dogs.
Speaking of journeys, we've covered a lot of ground today, from the reasons dogs eat dirt to what it means for our relationship with them. But before we wrap up, I wanted to leave our listeners with a final thought, something to really chew on.
I like where this is going.
What if we've only scratched the surface of what our dogs are trying to tell us? What if their behaviors, even the ones that seem quirky or annoying, are actually clues to a deeper understanding of their world?
That's a fantastic question. It challenges us to look beyond the obvious and really listen to what our dogs are communicating.
What other subtle signs might we be missing? What can we learn about our dogs' needs, their emotions, their perceptions, just by paying closer attention?
It's an invitation to deepen our connection with our canine companions, to see the world through their eyes, and to appreciate that unique bond we share.
I think you just gave us all our homework assignment for the week. To all our listeners out there, I encourage you to observe your dogs with fresh eyes, with open hearts, and with a willingness to listen to what they're trying to tell you.
Yeah.
You might be surprised by what you discover.
Yeah, it really makes you think, that something as simple as eating dirt could open up this whole new level of communication with our dogs.
It is fascinating, and I think it makes you realize how much depth there is to these creatures, we share our lives with. They're not just pets, they're, thinking, feeling beings.
Right.
Each with their own way of experiencing the world.
I think that's a perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
And the more we learn about them, the more we understand how much they enrich our lives.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of dirt-eating dogs, what's the one key message you want our listeners to take away?
That's a good question. I think for me, it's that dirt eating, like so many dog behaviors, can be a sign of something more going on beneath the surface.
It's a reminder to really pay attention and observe our dogs, be their advocates, and never stop learning.
I love that. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay.
And as always, if you're ever in doubt, reach out to your veterinarian. They're an invaluable resource and can help you navigate the, wonderful and sometimes confusing world of dog ownership.
So true. Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the curious case of dogs eating dirt.
Thanks for joining us.
And until next time, keep those tails wagging and those minds curious.